Hello, Western TAs. Thank you for joining us today to talk about time management strategies. My name is Melanie Ann Atkins, and I'm from the Center for Teaching and Learning. And I'm joined by our time management expert, Tracy Robb. Tracy is a registered psychotherapist who works as a counselor in learning development and success here at Western. She has been at Western for 20 years. I am thrilled to have Tracy here because normally she does this session as an in-person workshop on TA Day. And this workshop is one of the most highly rated workshops for TA Day. So when I decided to do this TA Day online, I made sure that Tracy was part of this. And I want to thank you, Tracy, for being here today.
You're very welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be filming this for you today.
Great. Now, in this video, we are going to define time management and self-management. And then next, Tracy will talk about some of the most common TA and other graduate student concerns she has seen at Western over the past 20 years. So, like I said, today's topic is time management, which feels like a concept that's quite familiar, something we've all thought about many times, yet it kind of feels like we just don't have it exactly the way we want it to be. So Tracy, can you talk a bit about how you view time management?
Sure, yeah. I like to think about it in this way. We have a certain amount of time available to us. So that's 24 hours each day, 168 hours each week. And regardless of who we are, the Prime Minister of Canada or a staff member or a grad student at Western, we all have the same amount. We also have a certain amount of energy available to us each day or each week. And that amount is different for different people. Because the energy part is just as important as the time part, I like to think about time management as being about self-management. So what I'm really here to talk about are the skills of making wise decisions about how to allocate our time and energy to the goals that we've set for ourselves or the things that we need to accomplish. Ideally, we want to be calmly responsive to what's going on around us, rather than feeling like we're always behind and emotionally reacting to whatever's happening. And this is especially important right now while we're in the midst of a pandemic. Conversations around time management and self-management can help us to be more deliberate and planful.
Yes, Tracy, I wanted to repeat some of the words you said because I think this is really important for everyone, whether you're a grad student, postdoc, faculty member, staff member. Everyone is living through this pandemic. And I really like what you said about wanting to be calmly responsive to what's going on around us rather than feeling like we're reacting to what's happening to us. And so I've never really heard that addressed in the realm of time management. So it made sense that you would marry that with the concept of self-management. So now I'm going to ask you a bit about what you've seen as a counselor at Western. So you've had the opportunity to meet one-on-one with students to discuss their questions and concerns about learning and being a student. So here I'm wondering, what are some of the challenges with time management that you've seen for graduate students and grad student TAs?
Yeah, one is juggling the variety of roles and tasks and responsibilities. So academically, there's coursework if you're taking courses, research and thesis dissertation work, might be side projects, you might have comprehensive exams, committee work. Personally, you might have volunteer responsibilities. Of course, you want time to connect with family and friends and time to pursue other personal or family obligations that you may have. And then there's all the responsibilities that are specific to being a TA. So that might include teaching time, marking exams or assignments, holding office hours, responding to student emails, and so on. So something that can be really helpful is to spend some time compiling all the tasks and responsibilities that are applicable to you, and then determining a written plan for how to manage all of these areas. All of this juggling can require even more self-management during times like this, of course, when a great deal of our learning and teaching and connecting with others is happening online. So I want to mention that there's a workbook which accompanies this video, and in the workbook there's an activity students can work through around this topic of juggling responsibilities.
Yes, I have seen that workbook. It is absolutely fantastic. I was thrilled when I saw, how comprehensive it was. And so TAs, this is something that you should use for the entire year. And when you look back, I think you're going to be really proud of the way that you were able to manage your time because you laid it all out there, right? Your concerns, all the pieces that you had to do. And then you went back to it over the year to really make sure that you were staying on track and then looking for new strategies when some of them started to kind of fall off. And so speaking of, falling off the wagon there, I want to know now, Tracy, about, what about the stuff that gets in the way, like distractions? Sometimes we know what needs to get done and we wrote it down and everything, but despite our best intentions, it's really hard to stick with it. Is that common among grad students, or just me when I was in grad school?
No, absolutely very common. And I think there's two categories of distractions. There's the external stuff, like being interrupted by family members or noises within our living space or neighborhood. I have somebody pouring cement in my neighborhood today, so there's my distraction. And then there's the internal stuff, which is a big category. It might be our thoughts about our work. Maybe we have doubts or stress about our work. It might be thoughts about all the other things we need to do after we do our TA tasks for the day, laundry, doing literature search for research or whatever. And it might be worries about what's going on in the world, when we can return to more in-person ways of being, worries about family or friends, worries about our health. And then there's technology, which I guess is an external distractor, but sometimes it's also our internal desire to avoid our work or escape into something less cognitively demanding, or even to feel a greater sense of connection right now that pulls us away from our work. And we can lose a lot of time this way, and it can feel harder to get back into our work flow. One of the big challenges now, of course, is that so much of our work is being done online. So it's not always as simple as turning off tech until our work is done. We need our tech almost all the time. So with distractions, I think it's important to identify what are the ones that are most common for you. And once you know what typically gets in the way of getting your stuff done, you can then focus on developing strategies for reducing the impact of those obstacles and redirecting to what you really want to focus on. And so again, that's a topic that's explored in greater detail in the workbook.
Yes. Thank you, Tracy, for naming how, some of the worries about things that are going on in the world and in our own lives kind of intersect at this point in our life, but also that, the advice that we've been giving for years about time management, which is to turn off technology, right? And to do everything manually, non-digitally, just doesn't make sense anymore, because we are called, a lot of us, to actually do a lot of this stuff online and work with technology to achieve those same goals. And so during these times of COVID-19, when so much of our work is happening both remotely and online. That's another thing too. We used to say, make sure that you have lots of social connections, put down the phone, don't text someone, go see them in person, make sure you get a hug, that kind of stuff. So, but now we're asked to work remotely and to work online for the most part. So I'm wondering, are there additional time management challenges that you're hearing about at this time?
Yes. Yeah, I think there are a few things that are important to mention, because when students tell me about them, they feel like they're the only one having these experiences, but they're not. They're actually very common right now. And one has to do with routines. So of course, COVID has disrupted everyone's routines. So we need to intentionally create new ones. So for example, we no longer have the external signals that our work or school day has started or ended. So it can be helpful to create routines to replace them. We could start our day by checking in with some peers or colleagues, for example. We could end our day with reflecting on the day's accomplishments and setting goals for the following day. Some people create commutes to replace the commuting they used to do. So they use walks or bike rides to begin and end their workday, even if they're working from home. We're also hearing a lot about what's been called productivity shame. And this is something that's discussed by Jocelyn Glei in her podcast, Hurry Slowly. And this is the tendency to set unrealistic expectations and then to feel badly when we don't meet these expectations. So even on days when you're making progress with your work, you're leaving each workday without feeling a sense of accomplishment. It's that feeling that I should have done more. And productivity shame can make it difficult to separate from work, especially when we're working from home. It's not like we're leaving our campus office at the end of the day. We're having a separate home and workspace helps to create that mental separation as well. Perhaps you can constantly see your workspace because it's part of your living space. And it can lead to getting really out of balance. So sacrificing personal time to get work done or feeling guilty for taking a break when you do. And I think another thing I wanted to mention is another experience many of us are having right now is that things are taking longer to get done. So it takes longer, first of all, to learn new technologies and new ways of doing things. And if you find, for TAs, for example, teaching online, it can take longer for students to learn how to use the technology, pose a question, and all that kind of stuff. So, it sometimes takes longer to connect with colleagues, supervisors, like waiting to hear back from them via message rather than just being able to drop by their office when you have a question. And these are stressful times. So emotionally and cognitively, we're carrying a lot. So I think it's important just to acknowledge this as a reality and try to build in some extra time into our plans to accommodate for this. So we really need to allow ourselves the space and time we need and to try to be gentle with ourselves.
Wow. Thank you, Tracy. That is so helpful. One of the reasons I've always loved talking to you is the way that you really talk about the reality, but you always give me hope. And so even though this video was about concerns, TAs, you can see how Tracy is already giving you a lot of strategies to move forward. And in the second video, we're actually going to talk exclusively about some more time management strategies for TAs and other graduate students. So see you there.